Coffee is for leaders.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are in a transition phase. We've been through a few of these, whether it's, client server or the internet, what have you. We're definitely in one now. And I know, we'll hold the AI, but if you're a professional services firm and you're not figuring out how to be more efficient with AI tools in the way you deliver projects, I think you're doing your clients a misservice. Now,
welcome to the CEO.com show. My name is Clint Betts. Today's guest is the CEO of Astound Digital, Bill Donlan. Bill is a trusted partner to many of the leading software vendors who frequently call on him to deliver keynotes at global customer events, to co-author industry assets and content, and to moderate executive roundtables. His significant experience in field service and his perspectives on how AI will impact field service innovation is drawing attention from industry associations and enterprise executives who are eager to see the intellectual property and technology accelerators that Bill is driving at Astound. Bill, welcome to the show. Tell us how you became the CEO of Astound Digital and what Astound Digital is.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thanks, Clint, for the opportunity. And I've been in the IT services ecosystem my entire career. I have a master's degree in information systems and accounting. And I joined Arthur Andersen Management Consulting. We became Andersen Consulting a year later, and Accenture. And so I've been in the space, Accenture thereafter. I've been in the space a long time. Spent 20 years at Cap Gemini, and then I did a 2-year stint as a partner at KPMG, and really thought that was probably going to be my last job, my last employer. And anytime a tier one kind of executive search firm calls you and says we got a CEO job for you to look at, you kind of take a look. So I went through a process, got hired by the PE firm that really is the primary owner of, at the time, Astound Commerce. We rebranded to Astound Digital last year. Been here now a year and a couple of weeks. And we're a professional services firm in the front office space. So you mentioned field service. We do a lot of commerce, sales, service, marketing, field service. Getting heavily into, components of both generative and, kind of more traditional predictive AI, a lot to do with data and, that fuels, those AI, solutions. It's a lot of work, having a lot of fun, trying to build something that I think can be pretty special in terms of a place to work, but also a great alternative to some of the bigger IT services consulting firms that I think we bring the same level of service, but a little bit of a different price point and cost structure, right? So,
give me a sense for where consulting is right now and kind of the future of consulting, because it does seem like it's in a bit of a transition period. And we'll get to AI in a second, and obviously that has a lot to do with it. But just give us a sense overall with where consulting is right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are in a transition phase. We've been through a few of these, whether it's, client server or the internet, what have you. We're definitely in one now. And I know, we'll hold the AI, but if you're a professional services firm and you're not figuring out how to be more efficient with AI tools in the way you deliver projects, I think you're doing your clients a misservice. Now, I still think there's a need for some level of industry expertise, and what are other companies doing that are similar to yours, and what are companies doing that are different than yours, and how potentially can we apply that? So that lens of industry, that lens of architecture, again, in a pragmatic way, process, globalization, governance, I think even Elon's robots are going to have a tough time doing those kinds of things. But there is an impact on what we can do to drive down costs for our clients, make things more attractive, deliver more efficiently with a higher level of quality. And if you're not paying attention to that, you're going to find yourselves in some trouble for sure. So I think you're right that, things are changing and we've got to evolve with those changes. Right. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Give me a sense for how you're thinking about an AI. And obviously, you're you're being asked to talk about this a lot, write about this a lot. So give us a sense for how you're thinking about AI, how you're using it in your industry, and kind of obviously the $1 billion question is, what's going to happen next?
It's funny because, we've had AI solutions now for years, and some of the predictive capabilities are fairly mature, and should be a part of any solution that we're delivering for our clients. So I look at it in two buckets. One is, how are we leveraging AI tools in our system development lifecycle to be more efficient, to deliver at a higher quality, to deliver at a lower price point? Whether that's writing user stories, validating user stories, potentially even writing code in some places. But we've got kind of this SDLC impacts of generative and AI tools. And then we've got the solutions that we're actually delivering for our clients. So, this whole idea around the agentic enterprise and agents, and when you think about Salesforce Agent Force, it's dominant in every conversation. You can't, turn a corner without seeing, here's another startup delivering agentic and agent technology. You certainly can't go to a industry event without seeing a lot of that. That's that generative AI side, and that's less mature, less proven. Data requirements are important. Looking at where the business case is, making sure that you're testing so that solutions are not hallucinating on your clients and your clients' customers. A lot to do in that changing landscape. At Astound, we're waking up every day and we're trying to figure out, how do we deliver projects more efficiently in that SDLC bucket? And then what are the things that we need to be doing for our clients? And having the right, can we assess the data needs? Can we figure out if you've got what you need to be able to be successful? The business case as well. Some of this stuff is easy to do, like an agent to answer a question, where can I get a vaccine? What is the current vaccine level? That stuff's easy. When you start getting into, schedule a return for me, or get me an installation, or I'm ready to initiate an RMA process, you start thinking about other things that you need to work with, whether it's Amazon, Google, Microsoft Azure data. There's a lot to kind of sort through and figure out and architect. And, you can go fast in some of these, use cases, but others, you need to be more pragmatic and make sure that you're accounting for what's all needed, and also guiding our clients through the business case, right? And the return. Where is that return? Some of this is priced at consumption level. So, you've got to be looking at those things.
Yeah, the consumption versus subscription thing is really fascinating, and kind of where all that shakes out, I think will be pretty interesting. What does a typical day look like for you as CEO of this company? I'm sure every day is pretty different.
You probably put 100 CEOs on here in the professional services space that have been a year in their job, and they probably would tell you, give you a similar answer. We've had to make a lot of changes. We've had to, kind of re-architect the way we look at people and our people processes, which we're a people business, right? We don't have a warehouse full of widgets or cars or, headphones or any of that. People are our business. We've had to rebuild our go-to-market motion. I mentioned that we kind of reinvented ourselves around, kind of end-to-end customer and front office solutions, not just commerce. So unfortunately, you still get pulled into some tactical details. I probably don't spend as much time as I should right now, kind of driving the strategy. We're starting to get to the point where there's more time for that. I have a very strong back office team, CFO, chief people officer. So fortunately for me, I'm able to spend time in the market, which is where I think my strength is, with our customers, listening to them, understanding what's imperative for them. Look, companies are much more careful these days, understanding return and business impact and being truly invested in that and those outcomes as a services company, I think is very, very important. And we're trying our best to be, as invested in those outcomes for our clients as we possibly can, whether that's through commercial arrangements, fees at risk, potentially penalties if we don't deliver at the level that we need to. All of those things, I think, are things that we're willing to do and, kind of put our money where our mouth is, for our customers.
Given kind of everything you've gone through and transforming the business in such a way, in such a transformational way, really, how would you describe your leadership style?
Great question. I probably, if you asked my C-level executives, they would probably say that I'm too much in some of their business and the details. I do feel a very strong responsibility to, the private equity firm that owns us and to our people. I've always been somebody who takes attrition very, very seriously and understanding why people leave and, understanding the importance of a people business. And so I'm a little more hands-on than they probably would like. But as the team gets fully embedded and ingrained and performing, there'll be opportunities to step back from that. So my style certainly is to find good people that I can trust that can deliver in their roles. And I think we're getting there. My style is to be very, very in the market and understanding, talking to as many of our clients as often as I can about where there's opportunities to get better or what we can do differently that they would like us to do. So in that regard, I'm pretty hands-on, I would say.
How do you define culture within your company? And are you hybrid, remote, all in person? How does that work?
First of all, we have significant delivery center capabilities that is done very much virtually, right? So we have a large delivery center in Eastern Europe, heavy in Ukraine. We have a kind of a nearshore U.S. delivery center in Medellin, Colombia. And then we have our kind of more traditional QA data development delivery center in India. Most of that work, most of those components of a project team are delivered 100% remote. We are seeing a need to get closer to our clients. We went through that COVID period where, one day you've got teams on site and the next day you're locked down and, for 2 years, essentially, you never showed up on site. I don't think we'll ever go back to what we were pre-COVID in the professional services, the consulting world, but we're starting to see more workshops, we're getting ready to go live, shepherd us through user acceptance testing, the early part of support with limited amounts of team or limited folks on the teams on site. We operate in the US, in the UK, and in Germany. And I would say all of our clients in all of those geos are starting to expect a little bit more physical presence than we had. But again, not going back to the pre-COVID levels.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I have to ask, how's the Ukraine operation going, given everything that's happening over there?
It's the most resilient group of people I think I have ever met in my life. I can't, from day one, of me being here, how I would get on calls with folks, that were dealing with things that, living here in the US, I can't even imagine, losing power or, rockets and, people being conscripted off the street. And, it's just not something I can imagine. And that group of people here, first of all, the talent level is amazing, the engineering talent, but the resilience of the people of Ukraine is something, truly, truly admirable. They're doing great. Look, we all hope for peace here. It would be great to get to that point. And, there are days when I'm more optimistic than others that maybe we can figure that out. But that group of people, and I hear from our clients all the time, how great they are, how resilient and involved they are. It's something to just, it's hard to say the words without seeing it. Trust me when I tell you, it's an amazing group of people.
I can't imagine what that would be like to kind of lead a group like that and see everything they're going through. And have them still showing up and, pushing through that. That's pretty remarkable in and of itself. Give me a sense for, how you balance, whatever that means, your life. Like how do you kind of keep that work-life balance or just general balance in your life?
I'm not the best at that. I'm lucky. I have a very supportive family. I have a daughter that doesn't live too far away, and she has two grandchildren. But I get out and run. I don't have time for a ton of, other activities, but, I'm doing this because it needs to be done now. And hopefully we can get to the point where all the right people are in place and there'll be a little bit more time for that. So I could definitely improve in that area, but it's not awful either. So
give people a sense for what it's like to be the CEO of a private equity owned company. Like what's the difference between that and a public company or a venture backed company? I think that actually would be interesting for some people to hear.
First of all, I would say that I have an incredibly supportive group, which is RLH Equity Partners out of Beverly Hills, California. We all know what it takes to deliver numbers to the street as a public company. And we see what happens when they don't, or when they fail, or when they come up short, or even when there's just uncertainty. We certainly feel a level of pressure in attaining our plan, our business plan, our goals around revenue and bookings and profitability and those kinds of things. But it's not the same level. And these guys have been patient in understanding the degree of transformation that needed to take place, right? It's time. It's, a year in a couple of weeks, it's time to perform. We certainly feel an increased level of pressure, but I also feel very supported by our ownership group, which is great as well. So very involved in the board meetings, general direction, informal touch bases, good group of people and involved, but not really giving me the autonomy to kind of set the stage for how we're going to run Astound on a day-to-day basis for sure.
We're about a quarter into 2025. How are you feeling about this year? Is it kind of going as you expected when this year started? And how would you compare it to 2024?
Well, every time I feel like there's a little bit of a breeze at your back, something happens, whether it's, the kind of the back and forth with the tariff situation, whatever it may be. It's a tough market. It's not the worst market. It's not the most difficult market that I've seen as a, professional services consultant. It's not kind of that .com, .bomb kind of, but I see our customers much more pragmatic, much more careful in its decisions, looking to do things a little bit smaller and faster, and realize kind of business returns and results more quickly, which is good. It's good for a firm like ours because I think we bring kind of the big SI level of service, but not at that level of complexity, if you will, and potentially redundancy in some of the services that we deliver. And we have to be sharper and leaner and thinner, and we are. I'm optimistic for the U.S. Germany is a tough market right now. UK is also a pretty tough market. I would say that it is slightly better than 2024, though. I would say that we're off to a better start, a lot more momentum and activity than we had a year ago, which is good.
Finally, we end every interview with the same question, and that is at CEO.com. We believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
There's many people. I will tell you that the guy that I had as my senior consultant on my first project at Anderson Consulting, now Accenture, he said something to me that I tell people every day, which is get yourself technical in this space first. Now, back then you're coding COBOL and DB2 database and, sometimes even an IMS database. So it's a different deal. But, he said, get yourself technical, get in the details, understand the details, and it'll make you a better consultant. And there are very few days where I don't reach back into the very detailed approach of estimating and understanding how to build something. So he had a very, very big impact on me. My boss for a period of time at Capgemini had a lot of impact on me from a leadership standpoint. And what does it mean to lead? And, how do you pay attention to people? We all read books, but how do you really kind of look after people and balance looking after them, but challenging them and creating a challenging environment as well where they can grow? He had a lot of impact on me in terms of kind of where I am from a leader. I would say those are the two that stand out to me the most.
Bill, thank you so much for coming on. Seriously, congratulations on everything you've done this past year. It's remarkable. Let's have you back on as things continue on. And seriously, honored to have you.
Awesome. Really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
Loving you makes